Master your money, free your future. Welcome to Budget for Life. My name is Jeremy, and it is 1:30 in the morning right now. So if you appreciate the grind, give me a like or however you want to say thanks. I am a financial advisor, but these videos are not financial advice. They're for your education, your entertainment, and today, in this video, I want to talk about projecting GameStop's Q3 software sales. Before that, quick channel update. Thank you so much to the viewers. Thank you so much to the subscribers. Up to 1589 on the sub count. And by the way, if you're a viewer and not a subscriber, you are welcome here. I am not here to try to shame anyone into doing more than what they want to do. I want to thank every single person at whatever level you support the channel. Give love and respect to all you guys. Hey, the channel has made now over $118 in October. At some point, I'll get paid for that. Can't wait to give you that update because 100% of the earnings from this channel are going to GME DRS booked shares. Super excited to build the infinity pool, the budget for life vault of GME together. I also want to thank any fans of the channel, any friends of the channel. Thank you guys for going the extra mile to say thanks and to make this public research possible. So, software sales in Q3. Okay, a couple ways we can think about it. And the easiest way to start off is just looking at year over year numbers. Now, in previous years, I just put them as percentages, and I'm really interested in the dollar amount. So, I'm going to try to formula this out real quick and say, just tell me what the actual dollar is for these figures, not a percentage, but a dollar. So a little clunky to look at this, but these are the dollar amounts of software sales by quarter in 2024, and you can compare that to the dollar amounts in Q1 of 2025. I know it's hard to see both of them at the same time, but if I lean super far, you can see Q1 2024, they made 240 mil in software compared to 175 in Q1 of 2025. And then you saw this dip, about a 20% dip, not quite 20, whatever that is, 17% dip Q1 to Q2. I wonder what it is actually. Let's punch that in the calculator real quick. 239.85 minus 207.56 divided by 239.85. That is a 13.4% drop. The reason I'm interested in that is because I wonder if it's the same percentage drop Q1 to Q2 in 2025. If so, that gives us a pretty strong clue for where we want to benchmark this. So 23.2 divided by 175.8, a 13.2% drop. So 13.4% drop quarter over quarter here, 13.2% drop quarter over quarter here. So if that trend holds, then you'd want to say, okay, well, what's the percent bump Q2 to Q3? And what if we have the same percent bump Q2 to Q3 in 2025? And 271.85 minus 207.56, 64.29 divided by 207.56, that's a 31% bump. Okay, so one easy back of the napkin math way you could do this is say, give me last quarter and say it goes up by 31% and then give that dollar amount to me. And that would be right at a $200 million software sales in Q3. That's one way you can look at it. We're going to get more granular than that because the other thing we want to think about is what video games were actually available for sale, right? Because that's like GameStop can't, they don't make their own video games. Maybe one day they will develop their own in-house something related to gaming software, but right now they can only sell what comes out. And obviously, we know the trend of physical video games so far has been on the decline for many years in a row. Could that invert? Could physical games have somewhat of a renaissance? It's possible. It's possible, but it's the least important of these three revenue categories for GameStop. And that's why I wanted to project this one first because no one's really like valuing GameStop based on a software sales like inversion back towards incredible year-over-year growth. But it's certainly in the cards that that could happen. But I was asking Chat GPT like what video games were available in 2024 and how does that compare to what's been available in 2025? Obviously, we know they also have fewer stores, so it does make sense for there to be year-over-year declines in their revenue. But we also know that Q1 to Q2, they just switched from a total revenue decline to year-over-year growth. And in spite of the total revenue growing, the software still had that same, 13.4, 13.1% drop quarter over quarter. Now, what I'm wondering is there anything we can discern from the video games that are actually available for sale as to why this drop took place? And we really should probably start with Q4 of 2023. What about major releases in Q in 2023? So show me like what came out late. So just Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and it wasn't even late 2023. As far as could any of, the Q1 of 2024 software sales number, how much of that could be influenced by, we just had whatever this game come out in Q4 that a lot of people haven't had the chance to buy yet. But actually, two things interesting here. One is that October is not that close to the end of the year, right? The other thing is October is technically in GameStop's Q3, right? They record their Q3 as August, September, October, and then November, December, January is what they call their Q4. So again, you would see that um, hit earlier, which we can see their Q3 and Q4 definitely a lot more software being sold in 2023 than in 2024. No doubt about it. Hopefully y'all can see that. This is their actual like software sales numbers. That's just so interesting. Like I'm gonna be honest, when this 152 number came out in Q2, I was surprised it was that low. And I'm gonna show you guys why, but it doesn't seem like I mean, you did have okay, Legend of Zelda came out in 2023. That was a huge one. Hogwarts Legacy, that was huge. Kirby, that was huge. Right? So some of these One Piece, I don't know if that was huge or not, but that's cool. Resident Evil, like definitely a strong year for video games back in 2023. which could have kind of set GameStop up for a disappointing 2024 as far as what are they able to sell. Let's compare some of those titles that we just read in 2023 to what was available in 2024. So in 24, you've got Final Fantasy in Q1. Elden Ring is big. Another Zelda in the very end of Q2, really Q3. And then I'm in a Super Mario Party game, a Mario and Luigi. So I don't know. This Zelda I feel like was a bigger deal. The Tears of the Kingdom that would have hit in Q2 in 2023, which was by far, I mean, it was other than Q4, which Q4 is always going to have the bump from that's when people buy stuff, right, for Christmas. But Q3 of 2023 is when Zelda hit, and you see like Q1 to Q2 in 2024, you had that 13% dip, and you saw that same 13% dip here. Yet in 2023, you actually saw a big jump Q1 to Q2, and that's probably Zelda related. And Zelda coming out on this quarter probably helped exasperate the drama of GameStop software declines because that newer Zelda was not as big of a deal, and also it didn't come out until Q3. Like you look at Q1, it's like Final Fantasy is just about it. And then yeah, you're in Q3 here. Now you're in Q4 for Marvel Rivals. So Marvel Rivals didn't come out till December. So maybe some of that, Q4 could have bled into Q1 of 2025. But let's look at what's here in 2025. You've got Assassin's Creed, and that's about it in Q1. Elder Scrolls, you would imagine mostly hit in Q2 because it was only available for 8 days within GameStop's Q1. And then the rest of Q2's pretty light until you get to, again, Mario Kart World. You would have thought this would have like GameStop in Q2 of quarter one. This includes their June and July, right? So this Mario Kart World was available for 2/3 of the quarter, right? And then you also have Donkey Kong that comes out at the tail end there. And I guess the Switch 2s are just like maybe some AAA games sell physical copy a little better than Switch games or Nintendo games. I don't know if that's true, but when you think about what's coming in Q3, so August, September, and October, compared to Q1 and Q2, Borderlands 4 is huge. And I read something that they had an exclusive deal with GameStop to where they were only selling Borderlands 4 physical copies within GameStop. And I don't know if that's true. Did Borderlands 4 uh, have a exclusive rights deal with GameStop? Jeez, my typing at 1:42 in the morning is not great. So there's a GameStop edition that's exclusive to GameStop, but you can still get the physical copy from other retailers. So, anyways, regardless, that's a big game in Q3. And then, of course, this huge anticipated release, Pokemon Legends, that there's 2 weeks of Q3 for that to hit. The rest of these names don't mean a lot to me, but obviously you also have a full quarter with Donkey Kong and Mario Kart, whereas that was just, Mario Kart was just 2/3 of the prior quarter. Donkey Kong was just 2 weeks of the prior quarter. So could that be a little bit of um, a boost, rather than just saying it's only going to do the same trend from Q2 to Q3 of last year, right? Could there be a little bit more of a boost thinking about those two names, thinking about Borderlands 4 being available for 2 of the 3 months, and then thinking about whatever Pokemon Legends might do? Again, most of these sales happen digitally, but that to me feels like GameStop's going to do better than just their relative average from last year. Let's look a little harder at last year and say the bump from Q2 to Q3, what was there to look at? So you had Elden Ring in Q2, because what happened last year? Their Q2, right, they sold 30% more in Q3 of last year than in 2024. And what we're wondering right now is how much of that was related to it's the third quarter. So you're getting closer to Christmas time. How much of that was related to any type of particularly large discrepancies between what types of games came out in Q2, what types of games came out in Q3? And Elden Ring being out in Q2 certainly holds some weight. And then you had The Legend of Zelda come out, and then 2 weeks of Super Mario Jamboree. So how much did The Legend of Zelda sell? 2.58 million units worldwide. Oh, that was just in its first week. Dang, that is pretty impressive, right? Oh, this is cool. It'll give you the physical copies. So physical copies are a little less than 10%, like 7% of sales. If if Japan is statistically average with the US, which Japan is probably even a little bit above, but within the US, you could probably say like 5% of software sales will be physical. 5% being physical. And then GameStop's going to get a cut of that, right? Between whatever, Amazon, Best Buy, Target, Walmart. Let's say GameStop gets a fifth of the physical software market. That means they're going to make about 1% of the US software sales of video games. So I wonder if, like, how much revenue did video game sales, AAA and in Nintendo video game sales generate in 2024? Do you know that? Well, they don't know. See, this is what I want to. The video game market, 92 billion was mobile games, which we don't care about right now. And then 50 billion of that was consoles. Digital sales. Okay, I think this is unrelated. This number, okay, yeah, is referencing the same place. I wonder, one half of this came from video games. Or sorry, half of this came from mobile games. So show me, man, the math on this at 2 a.m. is tough. PC games, console games, mobile games. Okay, so just PC and console together was 91.8 billion. 91.8 billion. And physical games were 8.5. So 8.5 divided by 91.8. 9% of non-mobile games, right? Console games and PC games, 9% of them were sold physical in 2024. So that, man, it was just such a light year for video games. So how much? So anyways, let me actually finish doing this mental math. So if what was it? 8.5 billion was the physical market. Was that just in the US or that was worldwide? That was global. Hmm. Okay, well, let's just do it as a percentage of global then. In 2024, GameStop made $1 billion in software sales. And the global physical video game market was 8.5 billion. So that means that GameStop had 12% of the global market for physical video games. Man, I gotta start a new I gotta jot some of this stuff down. Um, let's just start a let's just start a new tab real quick. Don't show me the grid line. So 8.5 billion global physical video game sales in 2024, which was, well, let me just finish. 1 billion in GME software sales in 2024, 11.76% of global physical game market equals GME software sales. What was that? 91.88 billion global PC and console video game sales in 2024. So again, the 8.5 divided by the 91.8, 9.26% of PC and console video games were sold physical. That will be fun to dive into. Um, so the next leading question. So, anyways, Q2 to Q3 in 2024, I think there was a decent influence from Zelda, um, hitting in September. How much did it say it sold? It sold whatever, 2 point something. Oh yeah, but we don't know how much it sold in lifetime. Maybe eventually, maybe there is that number somewhere. But in 2025, like Pokemon's just gonna blow it out of the water. Like how much has Borderlands sold? How many copies? Okay, so that's over 2.5 million. Similar effect to the Zelda game. And then how much is Pokemon Legends Z to A expected to sell? 15 million to maybe 20 million copies. Okay, so definitely the bump from Q2 to Q3 in 2025 has surely it's got to be a bigger bump than Q2 to Q3 of 2024. I don't think um I don't think people are ready for this. So we're gonna lift this number, but what's the total number? I'm also wondering from a full year basis, what's the total? Like we won't really be able to do this until hindsight to update like what percent of the global market, um, like how much revenue is the PC and console video game market expected to generate globally in 2025? It's like you don't know until it happens, you know? PC gaming and console gaming. So forecasted to be 39.9 plus 45.9, 2025. 85.8 billion projected in 2025. I don't think that is pricing in much upside for Pokemon Legends. I bet it ends up being more like similar to 2024. But if 9.2% of that is physical, which it could be less, right? Like the physical trend could continue or it could stabilize. Let's just call it a flat 9% and say it keeps decreasing very slowly. That would mean 7.72 billion in in physical, fiscal. And if 11.76 of that goes to GameStop, that would give 7.72 times 11.6 would mean they make 908 million in GME sales. So based on the annualized trend projections, it would lead us to think that the full year for GameStop could end up being 900 million, which right now they are at what's 175 plus 152. Oh, geez. 175.8 plus 152.6. They're at 328.4 right now. And last year when they made 1 billion, 45% of that happened in the first half of the year. 55% of that happened in the second half of the year. In 2023, when they made 1.5 billion, um, is a little closer to even first half to second half, but probably whatever, 46 or 47% to 53%. If this is 45%, then you're not going to hit 900 million for the year. But if Pokemon does the crazy things it could do, and then how's that being followed up? Then you've got Metroid Prime, Mortal Kombat. A lot of people are excited for Grand Theft Auto in 2026. But if we hit 900 billion, it's going to be Pokemon going crazy, going absolutely crazy. And it's hard to imagine that it would because Mario Kart didn't, like, it didn't have a huge positive impact. Like, how many copies did Mario Kart World sell? So in that first 2 weeks, they sold 5.63 million copies, which that would have been in GameStop's Q2, you know? What about Donkey Kong? Don't tell me. Okay, whatever. So I think 900 for the whole year. That might be a little tough. That's basically assuming that Q1 and Q2 is 35%, Q3 and Q4 is 65%. Hey, if y'all are tracking so far with this thought exercise, I mean, you're becoming an analyst right before your own eyes, putting in the hard work. Way to go for being here. Thanks for joining me in the middle of the night. I woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, I want to project GameStop software sales. I was like, can't fall back asleep now because now I'm just thinking about how I'm gonna do it. I'm like, oh gosh darn, now I'm just gonna have to go make the video. Okay, so this 199 is just based on that 31% bump. If we say because of Pokemon that 31% bump is going to be blown out, I still have a hard time saying it's going to be crazy good because we didn't see the Switch games really impact Q2 the way I thought they would. But you do have the whole Donkey Kong deal. I'm going to say if you surprise to the upside, and this is 225, then That puts you at 553 for the year, which means Q4 for the whole thing to be 900. I mean, Q4 would have to hit like 445, which is just not gonna happen. I mean, it could happen, but if we hit 445 in Q4, it means we also hit way more in Q3. Like what's more likely is if this all hits 900, what's more likely is that Q3 is more like 275 and that Q4 is like 395. And then we hit 900 for the year in this projection of what's GameStop's portion of the physical portion of the projected um, total global PC and console sales would actually carry water, which would be pretty epic. But based on just year over year type weight numbers, like Q4 only did 10% more in 2024, but in 2023, you saw a huge difference. I mean, what's that's a 50% bump Q3 to Q4, which is basically what you're projecting here. I don't want to get so obsessed about this 900 number though. I think it was at 200 and I gave it a more than 10% boost from Pokemon, calling it 225. But now I'm starting to talk myself into what if it actually is a little bit more? But I'm gonna call that a pleasant surprise. If it does more than 225, I'm gonna call that a pleasant surprise. I don't think you can project it to do that, but I think between Borderlands 4, between a full extra quarter of Donkey Kong and Mario, and especially Pokemon, which happens to hit within GameStop's Q3. That Pokemon one's really messing me up because it's so crazy popular right now. But it is Switch and Switch 2, and I feel like the Switch and Switch 2 conversions to physical are just slightly less. But maybe it's the other way around. What do y'all think in the comments? Also, Q4, like you have Metroid Prime, you have Mortal Kombat, but like those names aren't really going to compare to Pokemon. So I just feel like the Q4 is not going to be 50% bigger than Q3. I just don't see. I mean, it could be though, because it is Q4 and you have the whole quarter of Pokemon being out. Not everyone's going to buy it within just the first 2 weeks. Mm, it's hard to project how much Pokemon's going to do because everyone goes crazy over Pokemon. Now, how much that actually matters for physical software, I don't know. Q1 to Q2, based on the names that were coming out, I would have thought Q2 would have gone up, right? Q1 is Assassin's Creed and Elder Scrolls, and Q2 is brand new Switch 2 games for a brand new Switch 2. And yet it still went down quarter over quarter. So part of me just feels like, what if GameStop's literally just trying to shrink this business? I don't think they're actually literally trying to shrink it, but as far as where they're investing their money, I don't think they like this future of the software business. I think they see it as a declining revenue. Like, I don't think they see the trend inverting. And so I don't think they even want to grow this. I don't think they want on a percentage basis. I don't think they want the percentage to increase. I think the full year 2025, they want it to be less than the full year of 2024 on a percentage basis. And I think they want to see that every year. And the less that their total sales is driven by software, the less the bears have that thesis of why GameStop's going to be valued less. Like the software declining means less and less, the smaller portion that it represents for GameStop's total sales. And so I don't think they're going to go out of their way to make every dollar they can here. I think they're just going to take the low-hanging fruit. So if GameStop really cared about this business, I might call this more like 250 on a projections. But I'm kind of thinking, what if they really just don't care? And even with them not caring, I just think it's got to be a little bit of a noticeable bump with Borderlands and especially with Pokemon. So, um, we'll see. Maybe they blow that number out of the water, but I'm gonna say that that is my official Q3 projection for GameStop software sales. We'll revisit this once we build the whole thing out in the week or 2 weeks leading up to, of course, their earnings report in December, but also even just once we get on the other side of October, because there could be some huge news that happens, right? Pokemon could get delayed, or we could have some confirmation by the first week of November that, oh, it actually sold even more than we think, or whatever. But I think for now, that 225 number is probably pretty fair. All right, if you got anything out of this video, if you learned anything, let me know. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all the commenters, for the viewers, for the shares, for the watch time. I appreciate it so much. And I will see you again in the next one. Until then, buy and hold. Sorry. I didn't have like a thing to say. Like until then, whatever, that works. All right. Thank you guys. Talk to you later.